Hi there, I'm Joe Rooks. I'm the Data Quality Product Owner here at HESA, and I'm going to be sharing with you the process for a provider to go through the submission and sign-off process in HESA Data Platform. So what I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to upload a file and see what that process looks like. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm logged in as a provider, in this example at the University of Bristol. And on this, after selecting collections, you'll be presented with all the collections that that provider has submitted to or can submit to. As you can see here, previous ones which have gone through the validation and then up to sign off. And this here, student 22-23, reference period 1, is the one I'm working with currently, and this add submission button is enabled there. So if I click on the add submission button, I'm then presented the option to either drag and drop or search for a file. So if I just search for a file, 1 second. And I've got a file to put in here. And I'll just drop that in, and then that will kickstart the process. Now this does take a minute or two, so I did upload a file earlier, which has been uploaded and gone through this process of doing the schema checks, enrichment and validation. And what the user is presented is this information here on the right, and that gives them the file name, so they know which file they've uploaded, and some summary counts on the entities. There's an opportunity there for a bit of a sense check to make sure that it is what they were expecting to have uploaded. And at the bottom here, we can see that it's passed validation in this example. Now, the way you progress through this is you go from ingestion to processing, and this progress tracker, then you just click on reports, and it takes you on to the report stage. Now, in this example, because this one passes validation, there's nothing to show you here in the quality rules report, as none of those have failed any of the rules. And you can see here the total count, so it's 0, and for the regulator, the OFS. So what that means is you can progress on to the sign-off and get to this submission sign-off, tick the box, and then you can submit that to say that this is now signed off and you're happy with that file that you've uploaded. Now, I've got another example here of one which is going to fail validation. So again, we select a reference period and click to add a submission. Click here and select the file that's going to fail, and that will begin the uploading process. And again, I've uploaded one earlier, so we can see what this looks like from the process of when you fail validation. So we get this alert here to notify the user that there's been failures on the validation. And again, and on this total count, this is now red, again, indicates that there's entities that have failed validation. If we progress onto the reports page, then you can see a lot more information this time. And so the first thing to point out is you've got this toggle here. You can go inside tolerance, which this is the rules which you failed the rule, but you're within tolerance, or you can go outside tolerance, and these are the ones which are going to need to be addressed for the provider to move on to sign off this collection. So what we've got here is all the rules here which have failed validation. I think there is 26 rules here which have failed, and have failed to a point where they are over the tolerance. So this is probably a good example here for the student financial support. We can see that a tolerance has been applied of 10, but the population that's failed is 11. So they're 1 over tolerance on that one. And if we click through onto it, we're presented back with all of this information about the individual rows that have failed that validation. So we can see the student IDs here. Obviously, all fictional data has been used for testing purposes. And we were presented with the information which I think most providers will be familiar with, from current collections, but it's information which will help them investigate what's causing this to fail, and they can go through to find the additional rows here. Failed validation. And should the provider need additional information, then they can click through to this, and this will take them, this link here, will take them through to the guidance. So again, we're giving them opportunities to find more information about this field, about this rule, so that they can then correct that and resubmit. And that will have to be corrected before that user can progress on to that sign-off stage. Now, the final one to demonstrate here is for a Welsh university. And so we've got Cardiff University here and a collection here. We can identify the collections. It's just a slight colour change there on the collection that is selected. And again, we can add a submission, but I've uploaded one earlier. And really the point to show you on this one here is we've got some either Welsh specific rules or rules which are common across the regulators, but the regulator here is identified as HEFCU. And again, up here we can see which regulator this applies to. This means that once the system gets sufficiently developed to integrate with the issue management system, these will be created in the issue management system for HEFCU to then approve a tolerance for. So that is all I wanted to show you on this. This gives the opportunity for the provider to really interrogate their data to the point of where it's failing validation, so that they can move on to the sign-off. And I'll pass you back for the rest of the demo. Thank you.